My name is jennyjzhou and I am an ABC. I'm Australian born Chinese. I gathered a few of my friends and I asked them some questions about growing up as an Asian Australian and what their experiences were like. I've also included these questions in the description box down below, so if you would like to answer them yourself in the comments, please do have a shot as well.
My name is Enya. I am an Australian-born Chinese.
I'm Mike. I'm Australian-born Chinese from Melbourne.
Hi, my name is Cherry and I was born in Hong Kong and moved to Australia when I was 2.
Hey guys, how are you? My name's Sunny. I wasn't actually born in Australia. I was actually born in Shenzhen and I moved to Australia when I was 2.5 with my family.
Hi, my name's Joan and I'm an Australian-born Chinese.
Hi guys, I'm Teresa. I'm an Australian-born Chinese.
Hello, my name is Kenneth and I'm an Australian Asian.
Hi, I'm Maiee and I'm an Australian-born Chinese/Filipino.
Hi everyone, my name's Tom and I was born in China but raised in Australia.
Hello, I'm an Australian-born Chinese.
Hi, my name is Harry Song and I am Australian Chinese.
My parents are from southern China, near Guangzhou, and they immigrated to Australia when they were in postgrad university. I can speak Mandarin and I understand Cantonese, but don't like to speak it because I know that I'm speaking it incorrectly.
My dad was from Guangzhou and my mom was from Hong Kong. I can speak Cantonese fluently and I can speak just a little bit of Chinese.
They both come from the north, I believe, from Jilin, but I think ancestrally I have roots in Sichuan. My Chinese is okay, 还可以.
So my parents are from Shanghai, so I can speak a bit of Zhanghewu and I can also speak a bit of Mandarin, but my first language is English.
My parents are from Malaysia, although I believe we would originally be from China some time ago. I can speak English, Cantonese and Mandarin.
So my dad is from China and my mom is from the Philippines, and they came to Melbourne when they were in their early 20s, and that's where I was born. The only languages I can speak are English because that's the language that we spoke at home, but I have been learning a little bit of Mandarin.
My parents were born in Shanghai, China, and they immigrated to Australia in the 80s. At home I speak Shanghainese, Zhanghewu, and I can also speak some Mandarin.
Because I was born in China, I can speak both English and Chinese. 大家好，我的中文名字叫许一仙，今天很高兴能给大家讲一下我的香蕉故事。
My parents are from Hong Kong. I can speak Cantonese and English.
My parents are from Shanghai, China, and I can speak Mandarin, Shanghainese, and English.
My parents are from China. I speak Mandarin and I can understand a little bit of Cantonese, but I can't speak any of it.
What has someone said to you that has culturally offended you?
Ooh.
It's the age-old "Where are you from?" question.
Where are you from?
No, wait, where are you really from?
Go back to China, you Ching Chong.
People just kind of aggressively yell ni hao at me.
He decided to say ni hao ma.
Getting on an Uber and he pops out the question, "Where are you from?" I'm from Melbourne. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, nice. Sorry, I meant like, where were you born?" As soon as he says that, I started to realize that, yeah, okay. He's trying to get at, why do I look like this when I'm in Australia, sort of question, right? He was like, okay, right, Tom, I meant, where are your people from? I think a lot of us Asian Australians develop a very defensive mechanism every time we counter racist comments. Definitely in hindsight, I sort of wish that I wasn't so defensive. Another way to look at it is like, actually, well, how does a person know if we don't tell them our stories? In the future, when someone says, Tom, where are you from? I'm going to be straight up like, China, but raised in Australia.
We were just leaving, we locked up the store. One of the Australian guys pointed out to this lady and was like, oh, one of the Chinese are waiting for us, trying to see if we're still open. And then I was like to him, bro, that's my mum. And then he was like, oh, sorry man, really sorry bro. I did still kind of laugh it off because he was still like a good workmate of mine. But I was kind of like, yo, that's like, let that be a lesson to you.
Well, apart from like, you know, when you're growing up and like people calling you Ching Chong and that kind of stuff, there was like a car that kind of like drove through us and it was a bit like, whoa, shit, like, what was that? And then like this random guy was like, oh, fucking Asians or something like that.
I think he was like, go back to your country.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he was like,
go back to your country? Wow, yeah, so that's a full-on one. And I know that happens a lot. And then we just stared him down and then he was like, oh, like, not you guys or something like that.
Yeah,
and we're like, dude, you can't just say that and just like, you know, take it back as soon as like an actual Asian person like is like right in front of your face, you know what I mean?
I went to get drinks. Jenny was there too, and a couple of our friends, and we decided to get a group photo, and we asked this Caucasian male to take it for us, and instead of saying just 1, 2, 3 cheese or what a normal person would say, I guess he decided to say ni hao ma. Like a lot of the people in our group was not actually like Mandarin Chinese speaking. It felt like he was assuming that our whole group of friends were from, I guess, one country. That's not true because there are a lot of different types of Asians.
I have a lot of these examples because I wasn't born in Australia. I went to Australia when I was 8, so language was really difficult for me at the beginning. That made the cultural difference even bigger. Maybe led to me being picked on more. A lot of them would do the slanty eye thing and go back to China, you ching chong, you know, those things. At the time, I didn't take offense in terms of getting angry, but my natural reaction was withdrawing and beating myself up over that. Yeah, which looking back on it, if I one day have kids, that's definitely something I will try and instill into them. Being strong about your identity, and no matter what anyone says about you and where you're from or who you are, that you stand up for that and don't let anyone try and pick on you for being you.
Growing up in an all-white school, I'd often get the statement, "Oh, don't worry mate, you're a cool Asian," as if Asians are not cool. And that always really annoyed me because I hated that I wasn't like just an Asian, or I wasn't just cool, like it had to be cool Asian, because that cool Asian describes me as being distinct from normal Asians, and I didn't like that distinction.
It mostly started back in school. In high school, in year 7, I went to a religious school. It was a pretty small high school, a very small cohort, and there were maybe 5 Asians in the whole school. I think I brought a lot of curiosity to the school, to both the students and the staff. Teachers and students alike who would ask me things like, do your people eat pork? Do your people eat cheese? What do your people believe in? Do your people have a religion? I think it was more of a general curiosity, but it made me feel like I was different to them. And it's definitely something that I carried with me for a couple of years after that.
I think we've all experienced saying, I'm from Australia, and then people asking, no wait, where are you really from? When I went travelling before I started my grad role, I was travelling by myself. I found myself having to explain myself over and over again. Firstly, really frustrating, but secondly, made me come to realise that I had to be comfortable with being Australian and Chinese, which I hadn't really needed to articulate before. So that was a really big learning experience for me. Now when I introduce myself to people, I'll say that my name's Enya, I'm from Australia, and my parents are from China.
Oh, this is a good one. Did you have idols to look up to when you were younger, and who were they?
I guess in short, if we're talking about Asian idols, no, not really.
There was no one in Hollywood movies or in Western TV that both looked like us and told our story. If we saw an Asian face in TV, it'd literally be the martial artist, which, sorry, I can't kung fu, or the maths nerd.
I think everyone just expects you to automatically like Lucy Liu because she's Chinese or because she's Asian.
Well, obviously for us, I think Bruce Lee is definitely a big idol for us, just paving the way for martial arts and film. Such an idol to everybody, like everybody's like, oh, I know Bruce Lee.
I remember there was a time in early primary school, me and my friends, there were 3 of us, we wanted to be like the Charlie's Angels, right? And I was always Lucy Liu in the trio. And of course it makes sense, but it really annoyed me because I was like, why do I always have to be Lucy Liu just because I'm Asian?
I grew up with a role model. His name is Yao Ming, and I really resonated with his story. I consider myself a first-generation immigrant. English isn't my first language. When I came to Australia and I was getting bullied a lot, it was really great to see someone like Yao Ming pave the way and show how he was able to handle racist comments. He got racist comments quite a lot, not only from the white community, but also the black community. And not only was he able to just laugh them off, he was also able to successfully find a way to integrate himself into the community and tell his story, tell his Asian story about growing up in China and the Chinese culture. And it was really inspiring to see an Asian face in TV back then. It really shaped my story growing up. You know, it made me a bit more wary of how I was handling myself and how I was representing my culture.
I really loved High Five as a child. I really loved dancing and singing. And there was one person on High Five when I was young who was like a half Asian girl, and I loved her. Like, I loved everything about her, and she was like someone that I really looked up to because she was an awesome singer and dancer, and she also happened to be half Asian.
Something that I really wish I knew or want to learn about my culture. Oh my god, okay. Since coming back here, I've really wanted to learn more about China and the history.
I think I'd really like to learn more about family history.
I would really like to learn more about my parents' history, my family's history.
Definitely the language.
Reading Chinese characters and writing.
I wanted to understand how my parents grew up.
Because it is such a rich culture. 5,000 years of it, there tends to be a lot that can happen. China has been through so much. The history is so rich. As ABCs, a lot of us understand very little. I think studying that has really allowed me to understand why some of the Chinese people, the habits that they have, why our parents have the mindset that they have. You understand and you gain a new appreciation for everything that they've done. And for me, that's been a real good way to bridge my relationship with my mum.
What they went through coming to Australia as people who spoke very little English and also understood very little about Australia as a culture, and how they've come to be comfortable living in Australia and calling it home.
So I grew up in Malaysia and in Singapore, so I actually have a Mandarin background. I learnt it in school as my first language along with English, but obviously when I came to Australia I didn't actually continue with it for much longer, so I would love the chance to get better at Mandarin specifically, and even Cantonese, because I actually really like the language. I still watch Hong Kong dramas just to try and keep up.
One of the biggest challenges that you face is having that constant conflict with your parents about a range of issues. And I think a lot of this conflict fundamentally stems from growing up in two different cultures, one in the East and one in the West. So I had this huge epiphany in my life, and I decided that I wanted to understand how my parents grew up. And so I decided to take the big jump and move to China to understand and appreciate the parents' background and how they behaved the way they did and how they thought the way they did.
One thing would definitely be my dad's cooking. He was a chef, so he is amazing at cooking. I really want to be able to learn more from him so that I could incorporate that type of beautiful Asian flavored dishes into my own cooking in the future. I really, really want to be able to cook the same way he does for me, for my future kids as well. And another thing I wish I could learn is definitely reading Chinese characters and writing, because I would love to be able to teach my own kids, and also to be able to do things like read the newspaper, or even like writing things for my grandparents, or even to my parents as well.
What do you think about fitting in? What does it mean to you? I don't think fitting in is the answer. I think we should be very comfortable and happy that we are unique, and we're able to tell our full stories to other people, and the racist comments such as "where are you from" are becoming less and less prevalent.
I have always found myself to over-exaggerate my Australianness when I try to fit in, especially when in business context or in social context, over-exaggerating my Australian accent. I try and like overcompensate and try and be overly jokey or try and break the ice as soon as possible, which maybe isn't necessary, but I know that I do that myself and have done that for a very long time, because that's just how I've come to grow comfortable with living in my social circles. I used to think that it was hard to be both Australian and Chinese, and I would really try and hide my Chineseness as much as I could. But now I understand that being both Australian and Chinese is a strength, and I bring a lot of great ideas because of my background.
What's something that you wish your Asian parents would understand or accept by your mixed culture? One of them would be clothes that I wear. For them, anything like this is too much skin, or anything that shows like a little bit of cleavage, they're like, oh, put on some more clothes. It's considered as like slutty for them, I guess. They're starting to get used to it a little bit more.
One of the major issues that I would always fight with my parents with would be around education. You know, why are they sending me to Chinese school? Why are they sending me to tutor? Why are they making me learn an instrument when all my other friends were, you know, having fun on the weekends and doing other stuff? And it was not until I moved to China that I realized and I saw the type of environment that my parents grew up in. An environment where competition is just so heavy. The pressure that the students have to go through it's nothing in Australia compared to what they have to go through here. And I'm sure my parents had to go through the same type of educational system. It made me appreciate why they did the things that they did.
Still to this day, I think dance is like something that they will never really understand. I don't think they understand the artistic side and the expression side, because they obviously didn't grow up, you know, with dance classes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So a bit of a privilege to be able to, you know, do something like that. I wish they could see like the side of it where it's like you're actually expressing yourself and it's an outlet, you know, to get kids off the street.
For me, it's like filmmaking and like a creative job. Back at home in Cambodia or Vietnam, it's like you can't do that and make a living unless you're really, really good. And I guess my mom as well was just like, are you sure you're doing the right thing, you know? When it comes to creative jobs, they're like, oh, isn't it a bit shaky kind of thing?
Yeah, but they don't really understand like the industry. There's a job for everything nowadays.
There is.
And like, as long as you're good at it and like, you know, you're helping other people, like people will pay you for it.
A situation where I struggled with my cultural identity, or where I had to choose one identity.
That was every day. I don't think I've met anyone who is also half Chinese and half Filipino. The kids that were like full Chinese but born in Australia, they could still identify themselves as Chinese when they go back to China. Whereas for me, when I go to China, they don't see me as Chinese, they see me as Filipino. And then when I go to Philippines, they don't see me as Filipino, they think of me as Chinese. Then when I'm in Australia, where I'm actually from, they don't see me as an Australian, they just think that I'm Asian. I guess it is hard knowing like exactly which one I belong in and sort of accepting the fact that I am a combination of all three cultures, and that's something that I can learn to embrace.
Definitely only in the workplace. There's always this kind of division between the Chinese people and then the local Australians. So the Chinese people don't feel like I'm one of them, and they feel like there's nothing they can talk to me about. I don't have that truly Chinese background, but at the same time I don't particularly fit in with the Australian side of things, and because I'm working in this industry and I look Chinese, they immediately think that I'm one of them. So then I get stuck in the middle.
I'm an Australian born Chinese, now living and working in China. I'm sort of placed in this middle ground where I've got a Western upbringing, but I have a Chinese face. And there are times where you sort of encounter some difficulties because of that situation. If trying to find an English teaching job, my English may be perfect because I don't have a Western face. They won't give me the job because they're looking for strictly foreigners. And there are heaps of expats in China. I guess trying to fit into that community is also a little bit difficult because you still look like a Chinese person. I don't feel like I'm quite an expat because I've got the Chinese background, but at the same time I also don't feel quite fully Chinese because I have the Western background as well. Sometimes I feel like I have to navigate my way through this middle ground where, you know, you're a little bit like a Westerner, but also you're also a little bit like a Chinese person. I think there are a lot of opportunities though to sort of bridge the gap, and also a lot of opportunities to sort of utilize both these different types of backgrounds and use that to your advantage as well.
And something that I wish people knew about my culture or Asian culture in general is just, especially in the workplace, how you're meant to contribute to team meetings or how you're meant to present yourself. I feel that the way from my Asian background sort of take a back seat sometimes, especially when there are more senior people in the room. Something that I'm trying to get used to is sort of treat everyone like they're the same. So sometimes in Asian cultures you might have that thing where you don't speak unless you're spoken to. So that's something that I'm trying to work with, and something that I wish more people would understand for me.
Something that I love about being at ABC, I feel like I'm at an advantage culturally, you know? I've been to China so many times and I've seen a little bit of it and I know about it. And, you know, my parents will tell me about it or whatever and they'll keep me updated with news. But then I also have this, like, Western perspective. I get to pick when I'm Chinese And when I'm Australian,
I'm really proud to be an Australian born Chinese. I'm really proud to be an Asian Australian, and I think I'm really learning to love to be an ABC, especially in more recent times as it's being brought up more in the media. You see it a lot more and you hear about it a lot more, and I'm really enjoying my Asian heritage.
I never came to a point where I felt like I was ashamed to be Asian. My parents taught me very well to be proud of who I am.
I think there's a lot there that we are really happy to share, and I think we should do more of this more often.
I'm Australian, but I'm also Chinese. I'm from China, Saheni.
I'm proud to be both Australian and Chinese now.
I am proud to be Asian Australian.
I'm proud to be an ABC.
I'm proud to be an ABC.
I'm proud to be an ABC.
I am proud to be an Australian-born Chinese.
I am proud to be an Asian Australian.
to be considered an Australian and also to be considered Chinese, that is and always will be a part of me. I love it. It's as simple as that.